It's time to talk music, audio gear, and anything else that crosses our minds. I'm Mark.
And I'm Peter.
And welcome to the Hurton Audio Podcast. So, with Glastonbury on the horizon and Coldplay headlining after debuting their new single, Feels Like I'm Falling in Love, we are going to do a little bit of speculation on Moon Music, which is the sequel to Music of the Spheres by Coldplay, which come out like 3 years ago, was it?
Came out in late 2021, yes.
And what's very fun with Coldplay is they have a lot of like known like tracks that like the data miners and people online are trying to figure out what's going to be on the album and stuff.
So we're getting all the way into like the spoiler territory of seeing if the people who are trying to... This isn't so much going into leaks as much as it is, like you say... Rumours and whatever appears on Genius, because Genius, that's the one, I want to say it's in association with Apple. We can get it up actually whilst we're talking. But that one, there's some interesting theories, and I remember just to sort of remind anybody who's a Coldplay fan who's worried about spoilers, does anybody remember when there was a Coldplay and Daft Punk collaboration rumour on the Everyday Life track listing, which was entirely wrong? Like every single song name was wrong, I believe, on that leak or that prediction.
I think what's fun with speculation is seeing like, did anybody have any information that was actually like viable? And like, I think it's a great way to, like, if you sort of get really into some of the like conceptual, because Coldplay are very conceptual with their albums and the themes since they did Milo Zalotto, is really interesting in what people come up with and then how that differs, because you'll see like words come up, or should I say song titles come up that keep reoccurring, but then they say, well, it's definitely going to be on the next album. And it's a bit like U2 in the way U2 do this as well. And then the next album comes out and you go, that song's not there again, like 3 albums in a row.
Yeah.
So was it, am I thinking, which one was the song that was it Aurora? There was a song, wasn't there, that's not on this track listing. No.
That's weird because it was there.
No, that's what I mean. So it's one of those things where
not unless Aurora's been swapped for Eterna, but Aurora was on one of these last time I checked, because this is, I mean, what I will say is I checked the Genius Moon Music page about a week ago when the first song came out, when Feels Like I'm Falling in Love came out, and there was only like 7 songs there. So I find it interesting that some of them have changed, and I didn't screenshot it. So One World is the one that everybody did the singing along to on the phones. That's trying to get like the most people on, presumably. I believe that song was called One World. Do you remember I
don't remember which song it was called. I remember having a go, but I don't remember.
I'm sure it's One World. And then, so these are all speculative guesses. Now, Airwave, I believe, featuring Jacob Collier, that was hinted at in an interview. That was specifically cited.
I've got a question for you, Pierre. Is it Airwave or Awave?
Airwave. I don't know. But that one's supposed to be, on like From a Head Full of Dreams, like in the concerts. That's the ending theme.
Yeah.
But retooled into a full song, I believe. That's what I had read at one point. And then the Jupiter with Coldplay and Camila Cabello, that's a completely new rumour. I have not seen that one.
But have you noticed on this that there's only 3 songs that are allegedly unreleased according to Genius?
Yeah. The
rest all have views and like eyes on them, which I don't understand.
No, I don't understand
exactly.
If we was to
open one of these songs up, like, okay, so they've got...
there you go, similar to end credits. Closing
information. So they seem to be very confident.
So... If I just go into what this is about, I believe it's to do with citing. But Coldplay, obviously, when they do a song at their level, it has to go through some channels. So some of them channels may be the royalty societies. So it may be that a song composition has been submitted to a royalty society in order to essentially copyright the entire composition, but they might do that way earlier, whereas... say an independent artist, it's sort of all done in tandem with distribution. A band like Coldplay will probably do their royalty collection stuff way before they hit the release schedule.
Can I just say another thing before we get on to going down this track listing as well? Didn't Chris Martin famously say that the last Coldplay album would be the 10th album, and it would be called Coldplay, and this is the 10th studio album.
Yeah, but I believe there's something to do with is it? Oh, I don't want to get the director wrong.
This is
the Kill Bill.
Yeah. Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill and Kill Bill 2 are one project.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, but all right. So what's stopping Moon Music? Because it's not Music of the Spheres Volume 2. It's Moon Music.
It is Music of the Spheres Volume 2, but it is Moon Music in code.
Does it say Volume 1 on Music of the Spheres?
It does.
It does.
It does in the packaging. It doesn't actually say it anywhere else.
Why would they put Volume 1 on and then not do a Volume 2?
Well, it is Volume 2. It will say I guarantee you'll open it up and it'll say Music of the Spheres Volume 2
maybe
in the stuff, because it does. If you have the physical editions, it is in there. So I was going to say music. I don't remember seeing that. All My Love was probably there last time, as was Eterna. I thought Aurora was there, so that is really interesting. One World, like we just mentioned, was the one that everybody got the chance to be on. You got the chance to be featured on it if you was on the Coldplay mailing list, and there was some news stories around it.
So they're saying that some of these songs as well had live debuts in Sao Paulo. That's why they know the lyrics.
So
and
I
stuff.
suppose it's not really much of a leak then, because, like you said, that it's a bit like U2 when they debut their songs really early. People have sort of heard it. The Little Sims one is still there, and that's going to be very interesting. I think that's going to be the most fascinating track on the album, because Little Sims, if you're unfamiliar, I don't know how popular she is outside of the UK, but Little Sims is like a very prominent person in the rap scene in the UK, and it's getting a lot of traction at the moment. Very talented from what I've heard on the radio.
The other thing the reason why I think it's interesting timely now is obviously we've just got the first single, but since they're headlining Glastonbury, is it this weekend?
It's going to be this weekend, which will be basically when this comes out, they will be doing Glastonbury. Yeah,
because we're doing this podcast on Friday, and then Glastonbury they won't be on till Sunday.
They're on Saturday.
They're on Saturday. All right. Yeah. So the thing that I thought was interesting is we can speculate, like, are we going to see any of these songs? Are we going to get a teaser, an announcement, or anything?
1 second before we move on. The last track is Good Feelings featuring Chainsmokers, or the Chainsmokers, on this list. So the fact that the writing credits also include presumably the two out the Chainsmokers.
And Max Martin is producing.
Well, Max Martin's producing the full album, I believe.
Oh, yeah. He's not listed on some of the other songs, though.
No, well, it's not... it's only Genius.
It's probably because
it's
not, apparently, allegedly, according to Genius, he didn't produce All My Love. That's just produced by Coldplay.
Yeah,
but this is obviously not a very accurate
early
source.
days, isn't it?
It's very, it's not, nothing's been confirmed. Like I say, it even says this track list is unconfirmed. So it's snippets, song title sourced from streaming services, social media updates and stuff. So obviously Chainsmokers can say, well, we're working on a track with Coldplay, and then somebody would be like, right, put that on Genius, anybody who's even mentioned it on a tweet or anything.
It's like I say as well, it goes through like the way that a lot of these sort of game leaks happens as well. It hits the digital storefronts, and obviously somebody at the pressing plant presumably have seen the track listing,
which they should not leak, but it's should not and do not are two very different things.
So what I'm sort of saying is, with these tracks can sort of, I mean, some people just can't quite keep it to themselves, and it may be, say, like with Chainsmokers, because that one came out, that one was rumoured very, very early on, like over a month ago, maybe even longer than that, because I've sort of been speculating about Moon Music for a while, because we all knew it was coming. If he was in the Coldplay, like, fan community, it was known that Moon Music was going to come out. But
I think it's just taken
earlier.
a very long time to even announce it. Like, I think a lot of people, like, if you went on any of the Instagram posts, everybody was saying, like, where's the music? Where's the new music? And they did Big Weekend, Radio 1's Big Weekend, and they didn't play or debut any new music.
Yeah, I really, really thought that there was going to debut new music at that. So I was going to say, in regards, now that we've covered all the songs, to Glastonbury, I would really, really enjoy it if a lot of these songs were featured in the Glastonbury set, because they're having a live stream, an actual simultaneous stream on BBC iPlayer of the concert, so you can watch along live.
Yeah.
So they're going to have a lot of eyes on them, and obviously it's a massive festival as well.
And if you're a band like Coldplay and you want as many people to hear some of these songs as possible, you've got to take that. I mean, it's also a big shot in the arm for Coldplay's PR. Whenever anybody headlines Glastonbury, it's a big deal. Even if you've done it a few times before. Brandon Flowers from The Killers famously said, you headline Glastonbury twice, once on the way up and once on the way down.
It was actually just you play.
You
just play Glastonbury once the way up and once
and then
the way
obviously
down.
they've done it 3 times, haven't they, The Killers? So it's no longer applicable.
At least 3. I wouldn't be surprised if they'd done it more, but they've definitely done it 3 times. And Coldplay has headlined Glastonbury probably 3 to 4 times.
I think where you're going to hear bits of snippets and stuff is like the interludes. So before they walk on stage, you'll probably hear a snippet of something from Moon Music. At the end of the show, we'll probably hear a snippet, even if it's just atmospheres and backgrounds. Coldplay are very guilty of doing that all the time.
I really do agree. I think that a lot of the sort of thematic sound design from Moon Music is going to be present in their Glastonbury show. I really, really hope that they have some live debuts though. Or should I say UK debuts, because it says they've played quite a few of these songs in Brazil.
The question is, as well, is Jacob Collier, Camilo Cabello or Little Sims at Glastonbury?
Well,
and the Chainsmokers, I forgot about them.
I would have to check. I could imagine, providing Little Sims is not on tour, I would have thought they can get there. And, I mean, everybody's going to want to join them on stage.
That's what I mean. Because they brought Sabrina Carpenter out at Big Weekend. So they always like to bring people on stage, even if they've got nothing to do with the project.
I mean, I could see Jacob Collier just popping up because he just seems to be in that sort of like headspace of going, whatever, I'll pop up. It's interesting to see returning featurings as well with Jacob Collier, who was also on Heart Emoji.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Human Heart, I think, is what
Human
people
Heart.
actually call
I was
it.
trying to think about what the song is called, and it's not actually called anything.
There's no emojis on this track listing at present.
I think the emojis are interesting, but very gimmicky, and also dated in a really weird way, because the thing is with something like that's very present in technology like emojis is that if you look at like an old emoji, it's just a bit weird, isn't it? Like for song titles.
Luckily for them, they had at least on the physical versions, all of it was like specialized graphics.
Yeah.
So it's only really when they have to go into a computer system that it does slightly date it. And I think that if there was ever an issue, they would go back to their original code names. Yeah. Because they'll have code names, because you can't say what an emoji is, really. So
no, not really, no.
They have code names and titles.
But I'm hoping we get some really interesting songs like Music, right? Because of the acronymed sort of like stylistic thing, having dots in between everything. Could be kind of a sequel to Aliens.
Possibly.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it could be that. It could be a bit weird. Like, Aliens is very, like, I think it's in 5/4 or 4. Yeah, 5/4.
Yes, in 5/4.
So, yeah, that could be very, very interesting to listen to.
I do just also want to point out, if you look on the side, it does say Music of the Spheres 1 is called Volume 1 From Earth with Love. But I think for them, in terms of branding Music of the Spheres as an era, let's say, if they would have called the album From Earth with Love and then said this is all Music of the Spheres, nobody would have really processed what Music of the Spheres was.
We're going to say that it's going to be from Music of the Spheres Volume 2, Moon Music, except Music of the Spheres Volume 1 is going to be in like the small text.
Yeah, and I think as well, if you think about the way all the metadata works, if they called it Music of the Spheres Volume 2, maybe for some reason it wouldn't get the same amount of publicity. I don't know how that works, but I think it's like they don't want anybody to think that it's not a new project.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit like that with the Imagine Dragons Mercury project, because you have Mercury Act 1, then they have Act 2, which almost feels like a deluxe edition of Act 1, because they put Act 1 in the same case as Act 2.
And the way that it goes really is it's just Mercury, and so you have Mercury Act 1, and then you just had Mercury, which was the full thing. So it was a weird release for that. It does say Act 1 and 2, but I know what you mean. We didn't really get... And it's weird, because in streaming land, you would have thought it would have been super simple to just do Act 2. But yeah, they summed it all. And I think it's because of the follow-through players of when you just leave it running, algorithmically, you are more likely to hear the full 30 songs on the album before it passes on to whatever it wants to suggest.
I think we're sort of seeing like, obviously these are two great examples of like double albums that are spaced out over time, a bit like the 1975 did with Being Funny in a Foreign Language and A Brief Inquiry. They're sort of all meant to be the same
You said
project.
Being Funny in a Foreign Language.
Sorry, I meant Notes on a Conditional Form. It's because it's all B's.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I say, that 3 examples of like what would be double albums, you know, like thematically.
Yes.
That all have like some of the multi-year gaps. Some of them, like Imagine Dragons, was very quick to get Mercury Act 2 out after Mercury Act 1 come out.
They definitely did the best job, and I think it went unnoticed, did Mercury, in a way. Maybe in like Europe or the UK it did, but probably didn't in America. Probably was quite known, but that was the most successful spaced double album I've seen, because Mercury Act 2 came out like really fast, and it wasn't like, I mean, yeah, the 1975 was a solid effort at 18 months. It wouldn't have been as bad.
And I've got another example of this as well. Calvin Harris with
Funk Soul Wavs.
Yeah, with Funk Soul Wavs Volume 1, and then you just hear the radio silence for like years, and then it's finally Volume 2. There's always something really, really odd about people doing a Volume 1. Because a Volume 1 naturally implies there will be a Volume 2 at some point.
Yeah.
And then it's really jarring if it's been like 2 or 3 years and you're like, where's Volume 2?
It sets up an expectation, doesn't it? I think that with Nickelback's Greatest Hits Volume 1, and I think, guys, number 1, Greatest Hits are sort of not really as much of a thing now. And number 2, when do you release Greatest Hits Volume 2?
When you've got enough hits.
But like how long, though, do you wait?
And a lot of people wait about 10 years, don't
Are they going to wait sort of till they stop and then make it?
Well, the thing is that the Volume 2 tends to always be like 2 or 3 albums after, which always feels like whiplash, because they have like 20 years of a career, do a Greatest Hits, then it's always like, all right, here's another Greatest Hits straight
like
away.
after like,
and that's what the Killers did. The Killers had ages, then they did a Greatest Hits, then they did like 1 album, then they had another Greatest Hits or whatever, you know, probably 2 albums really.
I think they actually put out 3 before. You're saying the first is Direct Hits, and then the new one, Rebel Diamonds.
So you've got one after Battleborn, and then you've got, I mean, they had a few albums. Let me look on Spotify.
They had at least 3.
Let me look at the discography real
Wonderful,
quick.
Wonderful. They had
Imploding the Mirage.
Yeah, and then they had the
Pressure Machine.
Pressure Machine, yeah.
And then they've got, oh no, they've not got another one?
No, because really, whatever this album was got folded into the Greatest Hits, and the rest of it got scrapped. So
we're thinking 1, 2, 3, 4 Greatest Hits. Then we've got 1, 2, 3 Greatest Hits.
Yeah.
But year-wise, you're talking 2004 through to, I think, roughly 2013, 14.
2017, I believe. No, 2016 or 15 is when the Greatest Hits came out.
Really? Oh, yeah, because that's when they had the biggest
I'm
gap,
wrong.
isn't
It'll
it?
be 2013.
Let me go to compilations.
It'll have been 2013 because M83. Yeah, it was 2013.
Yeah.
M83 was well hot when that came out.
Obviously, look at this. 2013, Direct Hits, Rebel Diamonds, 2023. 10 years.
10 years.
10 years. It's
Backs up
always
your
10
point.
years. Because that's like a decade summed into one. What I always think's a little weird with Greatest Hits Volume 2s is they do tend to include the early songs a little bit more as well, so you end up with the same song 3 times when you should really. I like the way Queen approached it, because it was very much a 2 separate, completely separate track list. I know they had 3 technically, but
then they bundle it. They bundle it together.
Yeah, you always end up buying the Volume 1, then buy, a bit like Mercury, buying the Volume 1 and 2 together. Yeah. And then you like look at your Volume 1 going, well, that's
It's
a
just
waste.
like when you buy Fast and Furious on Blu-ray, and you get like the first 8, and then you buy the full 10, and then you get like the full 11 or 12 or whatever it's going to be, and you're like, well, I've got the first film like 6 times. You know, if you're a big fan of the franchise.
I think because, and you know, streaming sort of done this a lot as well to everything. everybody's so caught up in numbers sold, numbers streamed. Like you say, instead of just having a project as a project, there's all these gimmicky marketing things to, like say,
get the album platinum before it even comes out, which is something that's really popular.
That's part of it, but also, I mean, like, right, so you've got an album, right? Now, to make the album feel fresh, we're going to do a deluxe version, and the deluxe versions are draining me because, like with Brat, like with Taylor Swift's doing, like with Imagine Dragons, very guilty of doing this on Mercury, adding a song to the start, and they did it with Evolve, adding a song to the start of the album on streaming is really annoying. Like, yeah, it's annoying. For me, I have what I know is track 1 of Evolve, and it is not Next to You.
Yeah,
it's I don't know why.
It's a sequencer's worst nightmare because it's like you've sat there and you've said track 1 on an album is a feeling, and if you listen to songs individually, did you see this as well? By the way, just on a tangent, the Dua Lipa extended full album extended. It's really interesting.
The full album's got extended.
Yeah, if you click on it, the full album's got extended mixes.
Oh, what? I mean, I get it, but
click on the album.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
Look at that.
I don't know about this one.
This
is all feeding into what I'm saying about gimmicky marketing stuff. It's like every album's got to come out 2 or 3 times, but in a very short space of time. In my opinion, I want to know what's going to be released, when it's going to be released, right? And I want to be able to buy it all together at once. But I feel like this is almost a way to make you pay shipping 3 times. Because you just get your album in the post, and then they immediately say, here's a brand new album 2 days later.
I think if you are a collector of music, physical media, like vinyl or CD or cassette, it is very infuriating the way that streaming is. Number one, likely most artists, there are a lot of music, even in the most mainstream artists, there's music that you just cannot get, or versions you cannot get physically. And that's something that they're still trying to rectify in a certain sense with some of these pressings of albums like that came out 10 years ago.
So like you go to Dua Lipa, she's got 3 albums, technically speaking. There's 2 of every single album at the moment, right? And I'm not including Club Future Nostalgia because that kind of
it's a remix album. That's a different thing.
It's not Future Nostalgia again, it's kind of a different thing. So this is almost like instead of doing Club Future Nostalgia, but I think Dua Lipa will just have a Radical Optimism remixed because she's already going through remixes like nobody's business on like singles and stuff. It wouldn't surprise me if she did that as well.
I don't think we'll see the official deluxe version of Radical Optimism till 2025 based off the trajectory of 2017, 2018 for the deluxe, 2020, 2021 for the deluxe, 2024. I think the deluxe version will come out in approximately a year's time.
Yeah. I think if you wait a year, it's a little bit more acceptable. What I really didn't like with Brat and the Tortured Poets department is the way they rolled out the extra songs immediately, like literally immediately.
My one gripe, as somebody who bought one of the special edition versions of the Taylor Swift album, I bought the Bolster edition. There's like a double disc case, and I'm getting the extra song. And obviously everybody knew in Taylor Swift's team that there was 30 songs or whatever it is.
They could have just slipped a second disc in there.
Yeah, sold me on the deluxe song and then give me a disc with all the deluxe songs because it would have fit in there and it would have cost Taylor Swift
pennies, literally
pennies. Like a penny. And I just think that would have been a really nice surprise to me for being like there, day one, supporting her. Supporting the album
when she really doesn't need the support.
You could just give me the full songs on a disc. I mean, the box was already there, and I don't think that she's stressing about how much the boxes cost and the little trinkets you get in them. So it's just like that. That's like as a collector, something where you think it would be nice if, like you say, when they release an album, I understand. In say the way that Dua Lipa does it, and we're talking about all the Glastonbury acts today.
I know, it's a coincidence, isn't it?
It's because they're all on there to promote the new music, I guess. But for Dua Lipa, like she releases her deluxe version to capitalise on like award season. Like maybe she wins a bunch of Brits. Now she needs a Brit winning album to sell for everybody who slept on it when it first came out, but it's like, well, now that it's won some Brits, and these people exist, now that it's won some Brits, I'm going to check it out.
They're called sheeple.
And And then they can get the deluxe version of the album with the Brit Awards sticker on it, or whatever award show it is. Could be the Grammys if you're in the US. And boom, that was the old way. That's the reason why you had deluxe editions in the good old days of plastic CDs. That, you know what I mean?
I think it's hard when everybody wants to listen to everything before it comes out. Do you know? It's really hard with streaming, right? The streaming culture, right? Because it's like, say I've listened through Imagine Dragons' new album. I've not pre-ordered Imagine Dragons' new album yet, even though we typically will pre-order all of them.
Because we're almost 100% sure deluxe album's going to be announced.
You don't want to be, stabbed in the back as soon as you get your album and they announce a bigger album. The album's very short, is Loom, as well. But the other thing is you can listen to it and go, do I like it? Do I like it? Do I really want that album? Do I want to get that album later on? And then it's really hard because, you just sort of thinking like, which albums are going to sell out? Which albums are in pre-order? Is there good pre-orders? And then are you going to get stung as soon as you get something? A lot of the time, as soon as you order something, they do a better version.
So let's bring this back to Coldplay and Glastonbury, because I pre-ordered Coldplay's new album. I was lucky enough to get a signed edition. Hopefully there's a signature in there when it arrives in whatever it is, October. It's going to be forever. We think then that they are going to debut some new songs at Glastonbury. I would like to think that we could get at least 2 or 3. If they don't play Feels Like I'm Falling in Love, that would be a travesty.
I do think that they really do have to play that. I think it would be, if they didn't open with that, I feel like it would be really like a missed opportunity. I know they open a lot with at the moment they open with Higher Power, don't they?
Yes.
So I do feel like Feels Like I'm Falling in Love has the same energy as Higher Power, like the same sort of like stage sort of like presence.
The only thing is though, it sort of whispers its way in.
It is a subtle song.
Higher Power goes off right at the start. Feels Like I'm Falling. I feel like maybe that's something they're going to play in the middle. That's my prediction. Just because it's a very, very chill start. But then at the same time, they could do it, like where all the lights are off and then they build the show up. So when that, whatever it is, the second chorus, I want to say, when the song really starts kicking in. Yeah. Or is it the first chorus? Then they can, boom, all the lights, get the Marlowe stuff going. Because this is all, I'm right in thinking this is all in the universe of Marlowe's Arlotta. That's what they said, isn't it? Moon Music is in the universe. It's not about the same characters necessarily.
I mean,
but
are we saying it's the Coldplay album universe instead of the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Well, no, because it's only Marlowe's Arlotta and Music of the Spheres that are occupying this alien race situation.
Yeah, but then all the other albums are based on Earth, which has nothing to do with the aliens.
Yeah, but
and this is from aliens? Earth. This is from Earth with Love, so technically it could all be together.
So you're saying that it doesn't matter whether it's based in space or not, because Earth would be canon Earth or Coldplay
as with the My Universe video, canon Earth is just Earth with Coldplay on. And then they go to Supernova 7 or 8.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And as you say, Supernova is one of the songs.
Yeah.
So they're the Supernova 7, the band, correct? It is the fake band in then, My Universe, yeah.
And then they go to the planet that BTS is on. For some reason, they're on a different planet. Probably the music video director went, we need 3 planets.
It doesn't make sense to put everybody in the same room and then say, let's jump planet to planet. So I think that was to do the effects.
In all fairness, right, for the music video directors, you can't do My Universe and then say, well, all of the artists who record on Earth have to be on Earth.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Because otherwise it's like, we don't have aliens doing to record.
In terms of video direction, that would be pretty appalling. That would be... not a lot to work with, to be honest, is it?
Yeah. But... yeah, I'm hoping that we see some stuff. And like I say, when you're thinking about the way Coldplay have structured it, I mean, it's nice. It's a little bit like with, because Taylor Swift always buries Easter eggs and everything and the fans love it. Coldplay are very good at doing that with like I hate to say the lore of the world that they're creating.
I would say it's the same, and I think it's like this with any act, but Coldplay is really good because if you like Coldplay on the surface, you can show up, be like, yeah, Charlie Brown's a banger, and then leave. And that's fine. But if you want to really dive head first, like you say, you can be like, well, is Angel Moon going to feature on one of these songs, and people would be like, "Who in the hell is Angel Moon?"
Is the puppet the Muppet?
Like, it's the puppet Muppet that Chris sings with, like with the high voice, and you're like, what? And then so it's one of those cool things. But I think Coldplay is great. They're great to dive into, like you say, concept wise.
I feel like, and people are going to hate me for saying this. They're going to hate me. But I feel like Coldplay are occupying the modern day like Pink Floyd. And that's not just because there's a light prism with a rainbow. That has nothing to do with what I've just said. I just mean like the general thematic concepts and albums that feel like albums. Like, we keep talking about how the album is dead, and you keep seeing these more and more elaborate projects that are more and more one full project.
You see,
of music.
The album maybe was dead before Taylor Swift got let off the Big Machine contract, but when Taylor Swift got let off the Big Machine contract, the album was resuscitated because she has. I mean, number one, her albums are long.
I think, like, from an industry model, because they're selling so much and they're selling a lot of vinyl, it makes sense. So people will say, well, we're selling a lot of vinyl, so we need to press stuff, and we need half an hour. That's why a lot of the albums last for half an hour. But just in general, I don't understand anybody who looks at, like, say, a track listing like Moon Music, and how thematic and how the full project's folded into a single idea, right? And they can go, oh, I don't like that.
See, I think of this like, I remember listening to Random Access Memories by Daft Punk. We listened to the special iTunes all in one, like you press play and it just played the entire album in one go thing, if you remember that.
Yes, I do, yeah.
And that to me was a really special experience because you couldn't even see where the track breaks was. Yeah. And that album is sequenced perfectly. That's like, you know, there's a reason why people talk about that album. It's not necessarily because the beats are really hard hitting, like Discovery and stuff, but it's because that album is a literal masterpiece, and it may not necessarily be your cup of tea, or it might be like exactly what you want, but it's an inarguable thing with Random Access Memories. It's either for you or it isn't, but it's still a masterpiece. And I hope that I can listen to Moon Music when it comes out, all in full, and get the same or similar feeling of this story, sort of this cinematic audio journey sort of happening with the songs.
I think the main thing is when you have a concept this strong, you know, you're not just going to get 10 singles and then they're just going to be like, right, that's our album. You know, it's going to be interesting, and there's going to be moments that you're not going to expect, and there's going to be chances taken.
Music of the Spheres is a semi-seamless album, isn't it? A lot of the songs bleed into one another, and that is also what makes it really interesting with these albums.
So we've got to wait till October 4th for this. I bet that's longer than you thought.
I hope at least hopefully we might get another single.
I'd be very surprised if a single wasn't released tomorrow with the conjunction of their Glastonbury set. But you know what Coldplay's like. They probably won't release anything.
I think we will get a single from Coldplay at the end of summer, and then I think we will get a single when the album comes out.
Yeah, and on that note, when do you think Coldplay is going to put out the next single? And are you going to watch Glastonbury? Do you like Coldplay? All that in the polls and the stuff. Thank you for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next week.